How do you test cognitive function? What if you could measure your brain's performance in just 6 minutes? Well, Neurocatch gives us the ability to do just that. Is your brain aging faster than it should be? Well, there's a test that can prove whether it is or not. Want to know how well your brain is actually functioning? This breakthrough technology will give you the answers. In this video, I'm going to show you how Neurocatch can give you a complete cognitive assessment in 6 minutes. In my quest to optimize my own brain and to help those who I love the most and my clients, I've explored a lot of different technologies for testing brainwaves. And one of the first tools that we had was an electroencephalogram that was very complex. And it's a machine called the WAV, and it would take a lot of time. We'd have your hair all gooped up, but we could get some really good data from it. Now, fast forward a decade later, and there's a new device called a Neurocatch. And what a Neurocatch does is it is still an electroencephalogram, but it's a portable device that gives us real-time data on how well your brain is performing. And so we can look at the cognitive performance of your brain, we can look at the auditory performance of the brain, and we can also look at the visual performance of your brain. And by combining all this data, what it allows us to do is to predict the best treatment course that's going to allow your brain to just improve by little bit and little bit every single year, getting it healthier and healthier. And so the Neurocatch is something that scientists have looked into for years of saying, what's a shorter time frame that we can test the output of the brain? Because in some of these cognitive exams, when you're hooked up to all these devices, the brain can get fatigued as you're going through different tests and different motor skills. And what the Neurocatch does is it's a way for us to look at your brain performance before the therapies and before some of the exercises we take you through, and then we can test it after, later on in the day. And it gives us a good objective benchmark. The other thing that we can do is we can look at it every 90 days to make sure that your brain is trending in the direction you want it to. Now, some of you may come from out of town to get this test, and so it may not be every 3 months, and that's where we can do it twice a year or even once a year. But the benefit of having an understanding of where your brain may not be optimized, what you'll notice is that you may have areas of memory lapse. You may not be making decisions quite as well as you'd like to. You may also notice that there's just some deficits in the brain where you'd like to be better at pickleball. You know, that's the most popular sport right now for all of you that talk to me. It's like, do you play pickleball? And I've played twice and I'm not very good yet, but I'm going to be working on my brain and working on pickleball so we can go play. But if you think of those enjoyable activities and the energy generation you can get from optimizing your brain, we need some diagnostics up front to make sure what we're doing is working, because so often in healthcare, we just take your word for it. And sometimes you're like, I feel great, my brain works better than ever, and now we have some objective data to actually show how well your brain's performing. One of the things we've been able to uncover is by using the carotid artery scan. So we use the Neurocatch, we use the carotid artery scan, and we can see if there's blockages in the arteries. And then in some cases, we'll send you to get a brain MRI where we can look at all the vasculature in the brain to see if there's any risks of strokes or if you've had any in the past, if there's been seizure activities. We can also, with this Neurocatch, we can determine if you've had any traumatic brain injuries or concussions. You know, one of my clients, he used to have all of the dimensions of buildings that he architected. He had those in his memory. He could recall them. And then as years went on, some of his concussions from the past started to cause cognitive impairment with him. And he no longer could remember the dimensions of the building. And then once we were able to identify what parts of the brain were impacted and able to treat that, about 2 months later, all the dimensions and the memory came back. So even if your brain's turned off, this Neurocatch device will help us turn it back on through a simple 6-minute test. Our team will sit you down, they'll get you in a comfortable room where you can't have any distractions. That's probably the best gift of this test, is no distractions. It's just you and this testing device. And then we run you through a series of tests, and then at the end of it, you get your results instantly. If you'd like to learn more about Neurocatch and get yourself tested, then go to agelessfuture.com and our team's here to help.